Hi everyone, Rene Bastarache here, and this is video 2 of our Metaphysics video training where I answer questions that were sent in by you about metaphysics. Now in this video we're going to be speaking about safety concerns. A lot of people have asked me about, is it safe? Are the spirits safe? Or is it safe to travel? So we're going to talk about safety concerns, and then I'm going to end up by just basically sharing a few stories of spiritual travel that I experienced or experienced with other people while guiding them through it. So let's go ahead and get going. Here's the questions. I'm going to say them at the beginning and probably read them again as we're going through. Number one, where it comes to spiritual travel, is it safe? How can I make a safety type room, or what kind of protection is there if I feel I need that? How does a person verify that the spirits communicating with us are good, benevolent, or positive? That's from Kevin. Thanks, Kevin. How do you verify whether the spirit is lying? Ooh, that's a good question. Can they harm us? Can they get mad at us? That's from Ludmilla. So thank you for both of you. And there's a lot of other questions. I probably didn't mention the names. Some of these I just wrote down the questions and didn't put the names. So, and yes, I mentioned earlier in a letter, probably some of you didn't see that, but everyone that I answered their question, you will be getting a $25 gift certificate in the email shortly, probably within about a week or so, for sending in your questions. So I really appreciate that. So let's get started. Is spiritual travel safe? I mentioned in the earlier video that spiritual travel works on your sixth sense. Right here we have the five senses. There it's the sixth sense, which is the sense of imagination. Now everyone's imagination is different. So is it safe? That's completely up to you. What do I mean by that? You create your own world. In this world, thoughts become things. Whatever you focus on is what is eventually drawn to you. So your life, the way it is right now, is the result of your thoughts and your imagination up to this point. You're responsible for your own success or failure. A lot of people hate to hear that, but you are, because it was your thought process. When you want something all the time, you say be careful what you wish for, because you'll probably get it. And also when you don't want something, you're going to get that also, because the mind doesn't understand negative. So whatever you focus on, I don't want this, you're going to get it, because it doesn't understand I don't. Kind of like when you tell a child, don't drop that glass. All they're catching is drop that glass, because that's the focus on drop that glass. So always think about what you do want, not what you don't want. And the subconscious mind, of course, it works according to your imagination, which is what creates things in this world. So look at cause and effect. Cause being the thought, and effect being the result of the thought. So all the thoughts in your life create this. In the physical world, well, the spiritual world, all the thoughts are granted immediately. So your thoughts are erratic. You have an average of 64,000 thoughts a day. Think of that. So imagine having a little out of control genie following you around, floating around near your head. Every time you have a thought, granted, 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 granted. 64,000 thoughts a day granted, okay? Now, some of them aren't that quick. I think they say it takes an average of about 17 seconds of focusing before that one's created. So if you have a bad thought, cancel, get rid of it right away, and only focus on what you want to be able to create the life you want, or to be able to create the spiritual travel you want. Going back to, is spiritual travel safe? I think it's safe if you focus on it safe. The problem is today there's so many negative movies when you see spirits as spooky things, all these horror shows, zombies, gargoyles, all these, you see ghost movies with all these spooky things, and those work on your imagination. So when you go into a spiritual thing, oh, there was a gargoyle. Oh no, some evil devil-looking creature with a long tail coming after me with a pitchfork, If there's something like that, it's because you created it. So is it safe? It's safe if you allow it to be safe. If anything negative is coming after you, get rid of it using your own mind, your imagination. Just like you're responsible for the creation of your life in this world, also on that one, you're in control with your thought process. How can I be safe while speaking to spirits? Well, a couple things we do, especially when contacting spirits, or one of the main things I do when I do a group session or individual session is create a spirit room. So in your mind, I'll kind of run it through like you are creating one right now. In your mind, I want you to create a room around you. And this room is a safe spot that only positive things, negative things cannot happen. It's almost like they're bound to only do good. And I have you create it piece by piece. What do you want for a floor? What kind of walls do you have? What kind of ceiling? You could have chandeliers. It could be solid gold wall if you want. It could be a palace, or it could be a little log cabin, whatever you like. And create the furniture, the knickknacks, and everything. The only thing that I'm specific about that you need to have, you can have whatever you want, but if you need to have a couple chairs so I could sit down and talk to whoever's there, or a couch, and a front door, because you're going to be having them knock on the door. And as soon as they walk in their door, that's safe. Now, if you created a safe room and you feel comfortable that this is a safe room, and you knock on the door and the spirit says, come out here, don't go out, have them come in. Okay, I had that happen once where somebody says, oh, he wants me to come out. And their room was kind of like on stilts, almost like a pier going out into the ocean, a pier, P-I-E-R, okay, not a pear like you eat, a pier going out to the ocean. And they went down on the beach underneath the pier and were talking. And she started to get scared because she wasn't in a safe room again. You see what I mean? So you want to stay in the safe spot that you're in. So creating a safe room is one of them. Now, in different kinds of spiritual, I guess you could say, not travel, but spiritual vehicles, kind of like with witchcraft and sorcery, different people create, or different groups create different kinds of safety. I think witches create a circle around them, a sphere of protection. So you can do that, okay? It doesn't have to be unique to them. You're creating a bubble around you. You can make the bubble as big as you want so nobody can reach in and touch you. So what's your comfort zone? And when you speak to someone, or you keep them outside of your bubble. I believe in sorcery, instead of a bubble, they make a cone. The only way I could explain it is kind of like an ice cream cone, It's round and that cone goes right into the ground. So it's grounded as well, going all the way around you. You can create a car, a motorhome, hot air balloon, whatever you want. Or you could even make yourself a safety suit, almost like a wetsuit, or one of those. You remember in the old days, the deep sea divers had that big helmet and a suit, like a space suit type thing, of protection. Whatever you want will work. As long as you imagine yourself safe, you're safe. Why do we make a physical house or a bubble or a sphere? Because imagining something like that helps us to feel it. You see what I mean? If you imagine yourself with a suit, then you say you're safe. Or you can just say, I'm safe, if you have that same belief. So creating it just helps you to believe it. Let's see, how does a person verify the spirits communicating with them are good or bad or positive? And we'll go into the next one, if they're lying or not. Pretty much the same thing as I said before. What do you feel? It's your imagination, it's your emotions. To me, I don't worry about lying. I don't worry about negativity in the spirit world, because the spirit world is inclusive. It doesn't, it only moves forward. I mean, I guess you could say, to me, the purpose of the universe is to increase, is to grow. It's just always positive. Like I said, there's no negative. No negative. That was a double negative right there. But negative doesn't exist. The word no, or negative in general. I can't this, I can't that. To me, it's always positive. It's always moving forward. It's always getting bigger. I think we as humans get too hung up in the whole concept of right and wrong and good and bad. We have to have these labels. If everything was always one way, I know we wouldn't have the other thing, but how about just wise and unwise? Things are as they are. So in the spirit world, everything is now. So no matter what's happening, that's what life has to give you at that time. So is there negative? Is it bad? Is it this? It is what it is. And again, your imagination is controlling it. There'd be no reason for a spirit to lie to me. Now, have spirits ever lied to people? Well, sometimes when they come back, I hear that, because that's the belief system of the person that I've spoken to. Sometimes they're playing games with themselves. You know, you've heard the saying, to thine self be true. Well, some people's to thine self be tricky, you know. So they can lie to you if you believe they can. If you think they're going to tell you the truth and you feel they're telling you the truth and you feel good about it, to me, your emotions are your gauge for anything, even in this life. If you, when I say in this life, I'm talking about in the physical form. How do you know if you're doing the right thing? How do you know if you're on the right path? If you have the right career? If you're, teaching your kids the right thing? How does it feel? Do you feel good about it? Or is there an element of doubt or a stupor of thought? If you feel good, that's your gauge. It's kind of like a compass. How do I get to north? You look at that needle going north all the time, Well, your north needle is your emotion. That's your gauge home. That's your gauge to making the right decisions. Follow your good emotions. If you're feeling good, you're in, I guess you could say you're in sync with your spiritual self, with the way things should be. Can they harm you? Or, well, if you create a protection, no, they're not going to harm you. Can they get mad at you? Well, anybody can get mad at you. I mean, try putting a mental imaginary firecracker under your spirit friend's foot. He's probably going to get ticked, okay? And not going to blow it off because it's not, it's spirit, but I guess anyone can get mad. So just don't do anything mad worthy. I mean, if you want to take off a spirit, you're probably going to do that because that's what you're imagining. So what are some experiences? Let's see. I'm trying to think of something that would be fun to talk about. One of my favorite ones having to do with past life regression. I mean, we have a lot of fun with these. Some of the stories are just, I guess they put you in awe. It's like, wow, I can't believe that. But I did this one group in Sanford. I had a big office over there, huge, I guess you could say classroom in the back of the office. And I used to have anywhere from 25 to 30 people come over on a bi-weekly basis. And we used to do past life. We used to alternate past life and contacting spirit groups. And they come in and they'd all sit down on the floor on mats or chairs, and we'd go through the process. So one time, I remember we had about 25 people this day, and at the end of the session, we went all the way around the room, and everybody explains what they experienced. And this one guy said, I was an Indian. And he says, I remember walking into this cave with my bow and arrow after a bear. And he says, I saw the bear, I was able to get a shot off, but then he killed me. And I remember the story. It was a normal story, but that's how he passed away in that life. So we went on, and there was one person, a few people, after him in the circle, and he says, I'd rather not really talk about my experience. It's kind of private. I said, okay. So we moved on to the next one, went around. When the meeting was over and everybody started to leave, this guy that didn't want to tell me his experience was kind of like stalling, hang on. He wanted to be there to talk to me. So pretty much everyone left, and he came up to me and says, I feel kind of funny, and I don't know what's going on here, but I'd like to tell you what I experienced now. I said, okay, what was it? He says, well, I was a bear. He says, and I was in a cave, getting to the end of my hibernation, and he says, and an Indian came in and shot me. I was able to get him before I died. I remember the story I just told you about the Indian. If you don't, rewind a little bit. Okay, so one guy was the Indian shooting a bear. The other one was a bear getting shot. Now, was it the same group? Who knows? But it's interesting. I found it very interesting how sometimes doing a past life or contacting spirits, especially with a group, that some people will be involved in the other person's experience. Doing a contacting spirits group once, there was a mother, there was probably about 10 people here, but 2 of them was a mother, a grandmother and granddaughter with her. And the grandmother said, the granddaughter came on, she goes, oh, I was in this room and, my spirit room, and I invited Grandpa to come over. And he came right in and we spoke, and it was so wonderful to talk to Grandpa. He looked great. He answered some of my questions, but he kept on saying, I gotta go. And he didn't stay long, but he left pretty quick. And then the grandma came around to her side and she says, I wanted to speak to my husband. And I waited and waited. I didn't think it was going to happen, but finally he showed up. What did he do? He spoke to the granddaughter, and then he came to the grandmother. Now, it was kind of funny how, because everything's happening at once. I don't know why there was a wait. Maybe she created that in her mind because she could feel what her daughter was doing. Who knows? But it was amazing to hear how these two situations were tied together with the same spirit. So anything can be done. I mean, it's amazing what could be done. Could I have, if I had done individual sessions with these two folks and I had known this, could I have told the daughter, why don't you come in the room with the mother and all three of them speak together? That would have been an interesting type situation, but it was a group and I don't know what's going on in these groups. But that gives you something to chew on, something to think about. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it helps you with your metaphysics travel. If you have questions, please let us know. With metaphysics or with any topic, your questions help us to know what to make videos on, help me to keep this going, to be able to help our graduates, people just investigating, or anyone that wants to learn anything about the mind. So please share this with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.